and time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Okay, welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press. I am a reporter for, as you can see by my official New York City press card, I write for the Bronx Post and Parkchester Times, both like this show, are part of Parrot Media Corporation. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com and Facebook pages 100% and What is Going On in Your Local Community Board. The views expressed on this show are those of the host, any guest, or anyone commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily that of Parrot Media Corporation. And at the end of the show, I'm going to go into a little tirade against Councilman Kevin Riley, who we've been having a little back and forth on X with the old Twitter. So that's at the end of the show. If you want to hear me say some comments about Kevin Riley, stay tuned to the end of the show. Now on to the weather report today, Friday. It's going to be a beautiful day, low humidity, and it should be in the mid 80s or low 80s. Saturday, 84, which will be a beautiful day for the afternoon concert by Borough President Gibson at Orchard Beach. But at night, there could be possible showers Saturday. 82 on Sunday and 85 on Monday as the temperature goes back up with the humidity next week. My guest today is Joel Rivera, who ran in a Democratic primary for the 13th council race. While Joel did not win the Democratic primary, and one of my Facebook friends, Miss Kathy Beck, asked, why are you running? Because he's now still on the November ballot as an independent candidate. Mr. Producer, can we bring in my guest, Joel Rivera? Joel, are you there? Joel? Hello? Okay. Well, Joel ran in the June 24th primary.
Here.
Here we go. There he is. How are you doing, Joel? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Okay. Now, as I said, you're running as an independent in the November election for the 13th Council District.
Correct.
Much like Andrew Cuomo is running as an independent in the Democratic general election for mayor after losing the Democratic primary. We know why Andrew Cuomo's running. He's trying to stop Mandami from winning. Why? People are asking, why are you running in the November election?
It's very simple. I've always said from the beginning, Bob, if you recall, that I believe in 113th and one Bronx. And in the 13th district right now, it's almost like America's Civil War. There's two sides, the red and the blue, and I've never been about that. I have friends like yourself, like Mr. Powell, that are conservatives, that are Republicans. I've been a lifelong Democrat. I was vice chair of the Democratic County. So I have friends on all spectrums, all different parties. And I just feel that New York City, and I think by the mayor's election, we're tired as politics as usual. We're tired of the same old, same old. Both parties, even Democrats are frustrated with Democrats. There's things called the New Democratic Party because they feel that the Democrats are becoming too progressive, socialist, and there's division. And you can't talk. You know, in the 13th, if you bring up politics or Europe, it's almost fighting words. It's a line is drawn in the sand, and I'm not into that. I'm into unity, 113th, one Bronx. I expected things to happen in the Democratic primary. That's why I decided to run as an independent with the specific name of unity, which is what I've always pushed for. And I think it's time that we come together. Number one, I think that most people in the area want the same things. And I'm trying to I have friends that are Republicans and conservatives and said, Joel, I would love to vote for you, but I will never vote for a Democrat.
Well, running on the independent line, you had to basically file the petitions to run before the primary. Am I correct on that?
Correct. And look, I've been an insider, so I know that there's a lot of shenanigans. You know, I always call a spade to you know, and it might be a detriment, but the parties hire poll workers, as me and you both know. There's 200 or 300 poll workers, right? Let's say they have 2 or 3 family members that are registered to vote. You're talking about a base of already 1,200 votes. And then the parties usually control the senior centers because they give them money and resources. So you're talking about another 1,000 votes. So I know, as being a political consultant and an insider, that going into any race, whichever candidate they choose, they almost start with 2,000 votes before the election even starts. So I wanted a situation where my Republican friends and conservative friends and Democratic friends could vote for me regardless of party. I've always said I'm not into party politics. I've always said that I want unity. I want us to work together like I've been doing.
All right, let's
do it from
Joel, let's talk about what happened in the primary. It was a crowded field of 6 people. You got 1,120 votes, a little over 10%. John Perez, who spent basically under $1,000, because if you spend under $1,000, you don't have to report it. He was in the number 1 position. He got 1,437 votes. He was just above you by a few hundred votes. Now, his gimmick was, the Board of Elections placed me number 1, vote for me as number 1. Do you think that was a legitimate claim, or did he try something, below board?
Look, unfortunately, Bob, me and you are part of a select group. We go to the Morris Park meetings. We go to the Van Ness meetings. We go to the Pelham Park. So there's a group of us that are about maybe 1,000 people that we're very active. We're very informed. We know the issues. We know the policies. We speak with the electors. The voting population, for the most part, is worried about surviving, paying their rent, paying their light, deciding between the gas bill, the light bill, and their kids' tuition. So they're easily deceived. I think it was I think it was a tactic that was dishonest and not being honest with the voters and taking advantage of the fact that the voters aren't informed and don't understand the process. Not to mention that there's ranked choice voting, which is something that's new, that people don't really understand. So he tried to make it seem like the Board of Elections selected him and the voters should do the same. We both know that I was dishonest and disgenuine. But look, John's run several times. This is the most votes he's ever gotten. And if the way he wanted to get the most votes is by being dishonest and disgenuine, I don't think he'll ever be an elected official. I've said it plenty of times before, and I'll say it now on your show. I think his fiance is a much better candidate and somebody that we would consider supporting in a future election. She's on the community board. She works hard. She's a genuinely nice person. And I think if he was smart, he would put his energy behind her, because I think people would support her a lot more than they would support him. At least I would. Okay,
well, let's go to the choice of the Democratic Party, who did win. You mentioned you start off with about 2,000 votes. She only received 3,193 votes on election night, less than 30% of the vote. Then they did the ranked choice voting, and she went up to 4,383 votes, counting all the absentee ballots. And then they did another counting. She went up to 4,678 votes. All right. However, there were a total of 11,502 votes. So if you look on one end, they say, well, she wound up with 56% of the vote because of ranked choice voting. But she actually started with less than 30% of the vote. And 27.4% of the vote at the end was just exhausted. When exhausted means that they didn't go to anybody else. So that meant some of your votes, they didn't have a number 2 or a number 3 or whatever to go anywhere. And the interesting part of this was that Jacqueline Torres, who was an independent like yourself, running, and Shirley Aldable was with David Diaz. They were running as a team. And when David Diaz went out, more of his votes went to Jacqueline Torres than went to Shirley Aldable. She received, I believe, 657 votes, so Shirley received 587, and about 1,200 votes were exhausted, which meant there was no real power there for Shirley Aldable and the Bronx Democratic Party. Would you agree?
I would agree. And like we said, you start with 2,000 votes, and the thing we didn't mention is Shirley was the head of a union, and they did tons of mailings, triple or quadruple what anybody else did, not including what the PAC spent. And they have union members that live in the district. So if you really think about it, the average community member did not vote for her. She got the 2,000 votes that you start with, and then 1,200 votes from her union, and every single union member that lives in the district and their family members. And unfortunately, it's a formula, right? If you get the poll workers, you get the senior centers, and you get the unions, you basically can elect someone despite the wants of a community.
Well, we had a very big issue that just went through the city council, and the local councilwoman that you're running against, the incumbent Christy Marmorato, was able to get the Bally's proposal that the community didn't want. I don't know where the owner of Bally's came up with 80% of the community wanted that. I know I was at that closed door meeting of the Community Board 10. They chased everybody out but the media, and they had to have the media so they could have a valid vote. Okay. The vote went really it went the same way as the vote in the council went. It was heavily opposed. There were only 5 Community Board 10 members who voted in favor of the Bally's resolution. Everyone else on Community Board 10 voted against it. And I'm surprised that everybody was reappointed to Community Board 10 because of that.
Well, even before that, Bob, before the meeting you're talking about, where they kicked everybody out, there was a big forum where the community board did a presentation, and Bally's actually came and they came up with this. That's where that statistic came from. And none of the candidates spoke out. And I went and I stood in front and I said, and I turned to the audience and I said, who supports this project? And everybody booed. And I said, who's against it? And everybody started cheering. And then they told me, oh, this isn't a circus. This isn't a talk show. So we were against that for a really long time. And I'm glad that finally, because we're so organized in the 13th, we were able to stop the project. Christy, kudos to Christy. Now, there were factors that helped her because, as me and you both know, Queens has a bid. It's the leading bid for the casino. So all the opposition to having the casino somewhere else voted with her. Does that mean that she'll still be able to get legislation passed in the future where people say that she can't because she's a Republican? I don't know. I have to give credit where credit is due. And even though she had other factors helping her, she got the legislation passed that the community wanted. And kudos to her and credit to her. And her opposition said, vote for me because Christy could never get anything passed. So this blatantly shows that Shirley's statement was incorrect.
All right. I want to thank you for coming on, Joel. I want to wish you the best of luck. It's time for me to go to my commercial already.
Yep.
I hope maybe have you back on before the election.
Absolutely.
And I do want to...
I just want to say, Bob, quickly, that if you don't want politics as normal If you want something different and if you want a change, I'm your candidate, Joel Rivera, 113th, 1 Bronx.
And I've spoken to the councilwoman's office. I wanted her to come on today to talk about the vote. She's very busy. Her schedule wasn't open today. Unfortunately, I was told that maybe next week I'll be able to have her on to talk about the vote. So hopefully next week I'll have the councilwoman on, Councilwoman Christy Marmorato, who got legislation passed to stop the casino at Bally's in Ferry Point Park. And I also invite Democratic candidate Shirley Aldebo to come on the show. But that's not going to happen because I know the Bronx Democratic Party has told me in the past, we don't want our candidates coming on your show. And I'll get into that a little later also with the comment from Kevin Riley to me. Okay, so let me go to a commercial right now and I'll come back with the news.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Joel, for coming.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Okay, welcome back. Let's get into some national world news. As far as Ukraine goes, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that he and Donald Trump are considering a mega deal for two countries to purchase military equipment from each other. The U.S. would get the Ukrainian drones that are doing a great job at Russia, and the Ukraine would buy American weapons. It comes together. If it comes together, it's a breakthrough deal that would see the U.S. and Ukraine prop up each other's aerial technology, with Kiev offering to share everything it's learned about modern warfare in the last 3-year conflict with Russia. Iran, a new U.S. intel assessment finds that one of the 3 nuclear enrichment sites recently struck by the U.S. was mostly destroyed, setting work back there significantly. But the other 2 enrichment centers could resume in a matter of months. Prior to the strike, a bigger plan of attack that would have lasted weeks was rejected by President Trump because it was at odds with his foreign policy instincts. As the floods in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott slammed FEMA as slow and clunky, but Abbott has now praised the agency for its coordinated responses in the aftermath of the flooding. His opinion will only become more important as one of the 2 sitting governors on the FEMA Review Council. And the fallout from the cuts to FEMA will continue to ripple out in states on how Trump has systematically reduced states' access to resources to safeguard their people against natural disasters. As far as the death toll, it's up to 135, and it includes 116 deaths in Kirk County, where the severest flooding. And the flooding, which began the 4th of July, has also left over 100 people still missing, which is down from 160 a week ago. What legislation do you mean there? I'm not getting into Kevin. Okay. As I said, the comments you see at the bottom are those of those commenting and not necessarily myself or Parrot Media. The state budget director, Blake Washington, painted a grim picture when he shared that due to Medicaid changes in federal spending bills signed by President Donald Trump, there would be a $750 million shortfall in the current fiscal year, followed by a $3 billion deficit the following year. The bill also closed a tax loophole on managed care operations in New York that the state expected to exploit over the next 2 years, bringing in roughly $3.7 billion of revenue. Now it will only apply to the current fiscal year. Washington said, while nothing has been decided as yet, there will assuredly be changes to the state's fiscal plan to accommodate changes to federally funded social programs like Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Plan, or SNAP. He doubts, when asked if Governor Kathy Hochul would raise taxes to meet future funding gaps created by the new federal law, while state legislators have already pushed for taxes on the wealthy since Hochul has been in office. Hochul has ruled out the measure and amid pressure from business community and fears that it could reduce the state's already shrinking population. As on the eve of, and as far as flooding goes, as I mentioned before, I should have had that before the Hochul thing. On the evening of July 14th, Central Park received a record 2.07 inches of rain between 6:51. Yes, Kevin, the mayor can still veto that, but it could be overridden by a two-thirds. This is the Bally's thing. It could be overridden by two-thirds majority of the council, and the vote was very close to two-thirds majority. So it looks like Bally's is gone from the Bronx, Kevin. On the eve of July 14th, as I second, it was the second highest 1 hour rainfall. I got to have both these guys on the show one day. Only Hurricane Ida surpassed that mark with 3.15 inches recorded on September 1st, 2021. The third highest record, 1.94 inches, occurred during Tropical Storm Henry just weeks before in August 2021. All three records occurred within the past 4 years. When that much rain falls that fast, streets can flood quickly, as well as subways, as we have seen by video, and it can become dangerous to travel. When New Yorkers get these updates through the multi-channel, multilingual approach the city uses, it's important to heed them, because knowing is half the battle. Stay informed, gather supplies, and get ready to act. These storms are becoming more intense. As part of the response to the July 14th storm, New York City Emergency Management activated city's flash flood emergency plan. So that's a good one, flash flood emergency plan. This action triggered enhanced coordination with the National Weather Service, city and state agencies, utility providers, and private sector partners. In recent years, the city has expanded its outreach to residents living in basement and below-grade apartments who face the greatest risk during flooding. Let's move to a topic, primary 2026 for the governor's race. Both Governor Kathy Hochul and her current Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado highlighted grassroots support as the Democratic candidates for governor. Officially kicked off the race with fundraising numbers for the first half of 2025. Hochul brought in more than $4 million for her reelection. With the latest fundraising totals, the governor boasted now $17.5 million in her campaign chest. This is the first filing of the 2026 cycle, which Hochul has declared a challenger in Delgado, who has promised to run a grassroots campaign in contrast to the established party machinery. Delgado also put up some notable numbers. He raised $1.5 million between his old account and new one, eligible for public matching funds. He is eligible for an additional $3.5 million in matching funds, which could go a long way to help make Delgado more competitive with Hochul. And he has about $1.4 million on hand as of July. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul discussed the recent conversations with New York City mayoral Democratic candidate Zohan Marandi, saying that they have common ground in some areas, but she has concerns and believes New Yorkers have concerns on others. She says that they align when it comes to making New York more affordable, and commended Madami for engaging young voters, but stopped short of endorsing him in the November election, which is a few months away. I vehemently disagree with his positions when it comes to Israel. Hochul told reporters, I conveyed that to the Jewish people in New York who feel very insecure with him, and there has to be a lot of healing done. That must happen, as well as business community that is concerned about the police department. Everybody's concerned about the policing of the city. What would happen with the environment for business? So conversations are important. I talk to everybody. I think that's the start, but I don't know the outcome. None of us have a crystal ball That's what's going to happen in November. The governor did not elaborate on the positions on Israel she's concerned about. Madami won the primary in June with the most total votes in the New York City primary history. And there seems to be a ripple effect from that. Assembly member Jessica Gonzalez Rojas is launching a primary challenge against Queens State Senator Jessica Ramos. The plan is for Gonzalez Rojas to formally launch her campaign at a fundraiser on July 21st, which is a few days away. She formally filed to run as a candidate in next year's primary for Senate District 13, according to the State Board of Elections website. That district is currently represented by State Senator Jessica Ramos, who ran in the mayoral primary and then basically backed out and said, I want my people to vote for Andrew Cuomo. Following Gonzalez Rojas' entry in the race, Ramos' chief of staff and campaign manager, Trivett Knowles, released a statement defending Ramos' record. We welcome Assemblywoman Jessica Gonzalez Rojas to the state Senate race. Democracy thrives when voters have strong candidates and competing visions. He said, I am confident constituents will continue to rally behind Senator Ramos, who is the chair of the Senate Labor Committee. State Senator Ramos, who placed 7th in the Democratic mayoral primary, alienated many of her progressive supporters when she unexpectedly endorsed former Governor Andrew Cuomo for mayor. Gonzalez Rojas' primary challenge against Ramos is one of the first ripple effects of Assembly member Zohan Mamdani's upset victory over Cuomo. He received 51% of the vote to 35% in the first round of ranked choice voting. Now, Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, will mount a long-shot independent bid for New York City mayor after he decisively lost in the June primary to Zohan Mirandi, who, as I said, Cuomo framed the race as a two-man contest in November with the 33-year-old Democratic Socialist ignoring incumbent Eric Adams, Republican Curtis Lewa, and independent General Jim Walden. The general election is in November, and I am in it to win it. Cuomo said, my opponent, Mr. Mamdani, offers slick slogans but no real solutions. The video released by Cuomo's campaign Monday signaled a reset for a candidate who was criticized for running a low-energy bid in the primary. The former governor rarely spoke with reporters and avoided the typical glad handling that comes with a municipal campaign. The strategy was all more glaring after his loss to Mamdani, who placed an emphasis on voter interaction. Cuomo will mount his independent run without much of his institutional backing that he enjoyed in the primary. Crucial labor unions that have backed Cuomo in the primary bid are now backing Mamdani after his victory. Key supporters are yet to take a side. I want to see what he has to say, said former State Senator Carl McCall, who ran against Cuomo in 2002. McCall endorsed Cuomo in his mayoral primary bid. Recent polling has shown Cuomo running a strong second to Mamdani. Adams has decried Cuomo's effort to remain in the race. The mayor has met with donors who have supported a super PAC aligned with the ex-governor during the primary. Adams and Cuomo share a base of blue-collar voters of color who are considered moderate and Jewish New Yorkers. Mamdani in recent weeks has moved to bolster his support among these voters. Now, as far as the union endorsing Mamdani, it is, let me get to the right page here, another DC 37, which represents nearly 7,500, a quarter of a million municipal workers and retirees have endorsed Zohan Mamdani as their candidate for mayor. And Andrew Cuomo, as I said, now admits that he never saw Mamdani coming. He didn't pay attention to the polls that showed the upstart youngster closing the gap and didn't see the mania sweeping the city in the final weeks of the race. The primary New York City used to pick its mayor's race will remain unchanged after a special panel that had been formulated to switching to an open primary system said that it will not put it on the ballot. That's the Mayor's Charter Revision Commission. Now, the latest mayoral poll from Harris X finds that New York City mayoral race shaping up to be a tight and competitive contest with Zohan Mandami, the Democratic candidate, statistically tied with former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa in a four-way race. In that race, Mandami would receive 26%, Cuomo 23%, Sliwa 22%, all within the margin of error. Adams is at 13% with 15% unchanged. In a three-way race without Adams, Cuomo gets 31%, Mandami 29%, and Sliwa 28%. In a three-way race without Cuomo, Mandami leads by 10 points, winning 35% to Sliwa's 25% and Adams 19%. So it looks like Curtis Sliwa is now a competitor in this race. Now, I'm running out of time, so I will get to my reply to Kevin Riley. Kevin Riley wrote on X, 1,500 union construction jobs gone, 4,000 permanent union jobs, averaging $96,000 are gone, $625 million in community investments alone are gone. Now the question is, how do we replace that? Where's the alternative plan to bring this level of opportunity to the Bronx? Now, I said to Kevin Riley on X, this is on X, why didn't the Bronx Democratic Party propose that Bally's put the casino and hotel next to Yankee Stadium since the parking lots are already there? I also said that Kevin should stop shilling for the Bronx Democratic Party. His reply to me was, Bob, please, since I've known you, you've contributed nothing to the Bronx except fuel division. Well, Kevin, here's my response to you. Now I see you're coming after the media now, as I'm a well-respected Bronx member of the media. I might just have to do some investigating report in the 12th Council District. The Bronx Democratic Party, Kevin, is mad because they were outmaneuvered by a new city council member. The Manhattan and Queens delegations, as my guest Joel Rivera said, who also have competing casino bids, which now have one less competitor. The vote was 28 council members voted with Council Member Marmorato to defeat the Bally's land use proposal. The 9 negative votes were all from the Bronx, with the exception of Marmorato and Councilwoman Marina Sanchez, who abstained. And there were just 3 other votes from outside the Bronx. There were 5 abstentions, 6 people were absent, and 3 were on medical leave. So the vote wasn't even close. Now, it does go to the mayor, who can veto it, but he can be overridden by a council vote of 2/3 or 34 council members out of the 51 council seats. So it looks like, I would guess the mayor is not going to veto it, because it looks like the council would override the mayor's veto. So, Kevin, good luck to you. You should have proposed it by Yankee Stadium and have a Yankee Stadium city with a casino, a hotel, and the parking there. And that's it, Kevin. I just wish I could have helped you a little more in the I should say, I wish I could have helped your opponent, Andy King, a little more in your council race. Had I known you would come after me, I would have given Andy my support 100%. As it was, Kevin, I let it go. I let you go and win the race, but we'll see what happens in the next 4 years. I'll be watching you, Kevin Riley. And finally, tomorrow, Saturday, is a well-deserved tribute to a wonderful woman, Sandra Pabon. She was the 80th Assembly District Leader, who will be getting a street corner co-named for her at Hull Avenue and East 204th Street. The street co-naming begins at 1 p.m. I hope to see you there, as I will try and cover it. And thank you for watching the show, and I hope to see you next week. I guess my producer is not ending the show. So let me continue with a little bit more information. The proposal about the Cross Bronx Expressway Bridge.
humanity. Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.